A child is a treasure we should never ever spend. A child is a teacher, a child is a friend. Now I leave you with a message of peace and love. A child is a blessing from the Father up above. Oh, who speaks for the children? Who gives them a voice? Who stands up for the children? Who gives the children a choice? Tell me who? Tell me who? A child should be free. Who speaks for the children?
Good evening. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversation with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us this evening. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, a special thank you. It is really indeed an honor to come on the show with a guest and knowing that you're there listening. So I will try my best to not disappoint you. The show, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, is about having conversations with people about their journey. How are they using their gifts and talents to help others? How are they contributing to humanity in a positive way? And with that, I am constantly looking for people doing extraordinary things, especially ordinary people. My guest tonight is a very special person. But before I get into her, I want to talk a little bit about confidence. For some reason today I was channeling confidence. I don't know if it was a conversation I had with one of my nieces recently, or I had with a young man or so on, but for some reason or the other I thought it was important to write a bit about it, and tonight I'm going to talk a bit about it. I believe that without confidence, we are robbing ourselves and humanity of our greatest gifts. I think that too often we allow our confidence to be assaulted, to be abused, to be eroded or corroded. We allow people who may have some kind of influence on us to influence how confident we are. And I'm here tonight to say that we should stop that. I know it's difficult, because with the lack of confidence comes fear, different kinds of fears, low self-esteem and all the different things. But I ask you, when you see someone who's acting confident, especially in a positive way, encourage them. I believe that when we encourage others to be confident, or we encourage or evoke confidence in others, confidence lends itself to us and inspires us to do positive things. So with that said, I'm going to leave you with that word, confidence, and take a break when I introduce you to Miss Janice Lawrence-Clarke. We are back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. The woman on the other side of the screen is Janice Lawrence-Clarke. Janice, good evening.
Good evening, Selwyn.
Thank you for coming.
I thank you for having me here this evening.
I am anticipating a wonderful conversation. We had one on the phone and I was very, very moved by some of the things you had to say, your philosophy and so on. So, again, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you, and let people know that this is unrehearsed, so I
Yes.
have no idea what you're going to say to me.
Yes, for our regular audience, you know that the show is unrehearsed. It's organic. I never show my guests the questions, and for those of you are tuning in for the first time, I like the organicness of CWS. No question is forwarded beforehand. I just like to have a conversation with the guest, and hopefully by the end of the conversation we have a more three-dimensional perspective of who the person is. So stay tuned. Janice.
Yes, Selwyn. I'm honored, actually.
You are highly educated. You're highly educated. You have a degree in fashion buying and merchandising, then obtain a bachelor's degree in communications technology and then MBAs, all with honors and distinctions. What drives you?
Well, for one thing, growing up in the Caribbean and with grandparents, I grew up with my grandparents.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I grew up with my grandparents, part of that trend where your parents leave you at home to come to the U.S. or in some instances to Great Britain to make a better life. And of course, while you're home with ma and pa, all you have to do is go to school, right? And school, church, and what have you. And that is where it was instilled. Education, the need for education, the fact that one can better oneself with education. So it came from there, and I like to challenge myself, to see how far can I go? How can I achieve the best? And that was never more clear than when I finished my first degree at FIT. In my last semester, I got a 4.0. And I realized, oh my God, I could have done this all the time. So I said, well, the next time I go to school, I'll strive for that. And that was my bachelor's at NYU. Made it to a 3.75. Was not happy when I got the C+ in statistics or the A- in math. And I remember clearly, right? But when I did my MBA, of course, that was another opportunity to go for the 4.0. I got a 3.98.
You did excellent. What I'm hearing here is again confidence and determination. You were inducted into Sigma Beta Delta,
Right.
an international honor society for business management and administration. What does it mean to be a member of such a prestigious society?
Well, I really need to tap into it more. Because you get all these honors, and sometimes I think in the daily life of going about doing whatever it is that you're doing, sometimes you forget, if it's not right in front of you, that there are other resources that you can tap into. So I'm so glad that you reminded me of that, because I need to tap into that society. But it is an honor to be called among the best of you in your peers. So I received that and I welcome it, and as I said, I am going to tap into it because I have a show coming up and I need to tap into it.
You mentioned the show. The show is in August, right?
Yes, August 18th.
What is it about?
Well, it's called JATT 50 Plus, the next golden years. Yes.
Oh.
So this is because last year when Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago turned 50 years old of independence, I'd wanted to do an event, but there was so much going on that I really couldn't do it. So this year, here's another opportunity. It's 50 plus.
And where is this event going to be held?
It'll be held at the Broad Street Ballroom, which is in the financial district in Lower Manhattan. So JATT 50 Plus celebrates the heritage and independence of both Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago while benefiting Wings of Love International.
And what is Wings of Love?
That's a 501c3 nonprofit organization that advocates against domestic violence and abuse.
I'm glad I asked.
Yes.
I am really glad I asked. Yes.
All the monies that are made from the event, we would want to give to Wings of Love.
Tell us about your background in the fashion industry. How you were discovered as a model, and how did your fashion career get started?
Okay. Do I have to give dates?
No, you're not. Not at all.
My grandmother had told me that, you should never tell people your age because you don't look your age and they would never believe you, etc., etc.
Your grandmother was wise.
Yes, indeed. But interestingly, one day I was actually walking along the street and a guy by the name of Khalifa Medine, then he was called Cliff Medine, now he's Khalifa, he pulled up beside me and he said, "Hey girl, you want to be in a fashion show?" And I said, "A what? Fashion show?" I said, "I'd have to ask my mother." And I did, and she said, "Okay." And that was the beginning of it, with Cliff Medine, Steve Oliveri, and Esquire models right here in Brooklyn. And from there, I did, started doing more shows. My first show was at a place called the President's Chateau. Lovely. We used to have such fabulous spaces in Brooklyn to go out in. But anyway, it was at the President's Chateau. And after that, there were more shows and more. And I just got into modeling a lot more until I stopped and decided to finish school. Because at one point I was modeling and going to school at the same time. Modeling, I found out about FIT and started going to FIT. And I realized that you can't serve two masters. You have to pick one. So I decided to pick school. And that's how I completed the degree at FIT, then went into industry working with a sportswear manufacturer called Evan Pacone. I started with Pacone as a receptionist right after graduation. And from there, I left. I started as a receptionist and became their fashion director. Traveled up and down the eastern seaboard doing trunk shows with the president of the company, doing shows for major divisions like Saks, Fifth Avenue, Lord & Taylor, the top stores. And the rest, as they say, is history. Afterwards, I love producing shows. I realized that I have an art for putting things together and telling a story with clothing and fashion and music and the whole 9 yards.
You mentioned not serving two masters, and it kind of piqued my interest. How important is that in your daily life, in what you do? How important it is to focus on one thing at a time? Because we live in an era where everything is happening so fast, and there's this pressure to multitask and so on. But how do you multitask?
Very much so.
I guess it's not the same thing, is it? Multitasking and not serving two masters. Two different things, right? Two different things.
Yeah. I think it has to do with purpose. Right? And if you look at the word of God as in the Bible, in Matthew 6, Jesus actually says, that it's better to serve God, like pick one or the other. You can't serve both master and mammon, or you can't serve God and serve money at the same time. You got to pick one. And that's pretty much the conclusion that I came to. Pick one.
I think your industry is better off that you did make that choice to go to school and follow your education. Tell us about what adult influenced your fashion sense when you were growing up?
My mother. My mother used to make me these cute little dresses with matching hats when I was a little girl. She dressed me up. you know.
Oh.
And it was since then that I love dressing up. She always made sure that I looked fabulous.
Mom is still alive?
Mommy is still alive, absolutely. Thank
Hello,
God.
Mom.
I hope she's watching. She's in Trinidad. Hi,
Oh.
Mommy. My daughter's there with her too. So.
Oh, really? I'll get to your daughter just in a moment. You know, I was really intrigued by the conversation we had the other day, and this mantra you have about nothing will stop. Nothing can stop you from
Taking care of my child.
taking care of your child. Something we will get into that. So, what does fashion? Why does fashion matter
Why does fashion matter to who?
to you?
Okay. Yeah, I have to ask these
Yes.
questions. For me, fashion is like, it's a life. It's, I'm happy that there is a thing called fashion, otherwise I wouldn't have known what it is that I love,
Uh-huh.
right? When people hear fashion, they tend to think designer and model. They don't realize that there's so many other parts of this whole thing that we call fashion, the whole fashion industry. People think that they don't pay attention to fashion, but fashion comes into play every time you select something to purchase. You know, why did you buy that shade of blue shirt as opposed to a darker shade? You know, why are you putting it with dark slacks as opposed to light slacks? And so fashion is a way of life in general. But for me, it's also like my anointing. I've tried to get away from fashion, but I keep getting dragged right back into it. I have tried.
You have.
Yes.
And that leads me to my next question. What's the best and worst thing about being a model?
Wow, you still consider me a model? Oh,
Huh?
you call me a model?
Well, I mean, you were at
Well,
the time,
yes,
right?
I did. The best thing, I would say probably wearing fabulous clothes, but it's hard work. Oh, it's very hard work. And when you see top models looking all glamorous and the hair and the makeup and wearing all the beautiful dresses and what have you, you don't know the time of day that they have to get up to be there, the stringent regimen that they have to be on so that their bodies stay a certain size. People don't realize that they face rejection constantly. You know, because their look may be in this season and out next season. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Do I have to cut my hair so that I'm in, or do I have to grow my hair long? Do I have to color my hair? I mean, there's a lot of stress that's put on a model. So when a woman, male or female, a woman or man, gets to the place that they call supermodel, it takes a lot of hard work. It's like wearing a fur coat in 90 degrees and having to look cool, or wearing a bikini in 30 degrees and having to look as though you're having a great time in the sun.
So it whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
And what was the most unusual outfit when you were a model you had to wear?
Wow, unusual outfit. That's a hard question.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can't think of an unusual outfit. I can think of accidents.
Okay, let's go there.
The biggest accident I had, okay,
All right.
was the best fashion show. I'd always wanted to be the bride in the FIT school show, okay? And I was wearing a fabulous lace gown with long tapered sleeves that tapered, you know, on the wrist, lace, high collar, fitted body, lots of tulle. Tulle is that netting that's used under dresses and what have you. Lots of tulle at the tail, so it looked like a fish tail. It looked like the Munsters, Elvira, you know,
Yes,
but in
gotcha.
white. Beautiful, fabulous.
And then you had the height.
Exactly. Okay. The dress was designed by a young man named Alexander, right? And he perched me very nicely. I was part of the preset. The lights were down. This was the 5 o'clock show, meaning the whole fashion industry. This was the show that the industry attended. lights down, preset, and I'm stuck on the stage. I'm standing on the stage in fabulous pose, and the lights are coming up slowly, and the audience erupts in applause because you're seeing this fabulous silhouette on the stage. And when the lights finally come up, it's time for me to step off. And as I step, I can't move. My dress is caught. They fixed it so nicely that it was caught on the edge of the platform. So I couldn't move. So I tried again, and I realized that if I moved, I would rip the dress. So that Sunday, because the shows usually take place on a Thursday, that Sunday I remember reading an article in the Sunday Times magazine about Lena Horne. And it said, Lena envelops the audience with her arms. So I just said in my mind, well, here goes Lena. And I opened my arms, and then I pointed down at the spot so that whomever is backstage, come and do something. And finally somebody came and unstuck me so that I could walk off the stage. That was, for me, the most disappointing denouement, okay, of my moment.
But you rose to the occasion.
Well,
And talk about thinking on your feet.
exactly, you have to. You have to. I mean, in whatever part of life that you're in, you really do have to think on your feet, because things always happen, and you have to know how to respond with grace and not blow your cool. It's so easy to blow your cool. But what could I have done on that stage in front of 900 people?
How would you describe your personal style?
Sometimes I say eclectic,
Eclectic.
because I have moments where I want to be just cool, but I'd say the eclecticism is in my home. So I have a sense of order, but then there's a sense of edginess, you know. And lately I notice, like, when I'm dressed to go out, like to go out in the evening or what have you, kind of look pretty sexy, but sensual, right? So I remember young women saying to me, yes, Janice, let these young girls know that you don't have to show everything to be sexy, right? So I'm sensual, right? I always wear clothing that suits my body. I think one of the worst things that I hate to see is women who are what I call improperly dressed, because either something is too tight. I don't like too tight clothes. Something is too tight, or it's too short, or, you know, and not that there's anything wrong with short, but leave something to the imagination. So I'd say eclectic.
So where you draw your inspiration?
My inspiration for what?
where do you draw your inspiration for your fashion, your sense of style? Where does it come from?
Gosh, you know, there was this senior designer, Oli Borden, who told me, he used to work at Evan Picone. He designed Evan Picone dresses, and he said to me, Janice, you know, you are born with style. So it's something, style to me is something that is innate. You can't buy it, because it's not you. Style has to be something that comes from inside, and you project it outside. And then that way, whatever you wear is just comfortable, and it looks natural for you, as opposed to some people who would buy things just as they see in the magazine and wear it without personalizing it, and it looked good there, but it doesn't necessarily work for you. So you have to find you. It means being comfortable with you, being comfortable with yourself. So inspiration comes from within. Inspiration comes from my Holy Spirit. Sometimes when I'm getting dressed, most often I say, okay, Lord, so what should I wear today? You tell me. and I would listen.
I like it. So there's obedience there.
Yes, you have to. Obedience is a very important thing. Not always obedient.
I like that. Early on, you mentioned your mom dressing you up, in matching hat and dress, and then you spoke about this event, about the 50th, I guess, anniversary for Jamaican TNT. So I want to go down in your timeline a little bit and ask you about Trinidad. What is your favorite memory of Trinidad and Tobago as a child?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, my favorite memory of Trinidad and Tobago as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Colin, you know how far you sending me?
Let's journey.
As a child? Oh my goodness. I have so many. I have memories of playing what we call moral.
Moral.
Yeah. Moral is a ball game with, let's say, 6 or 8 boxes on the ground, right? You draw 6 to 8 boxes. And when I say boxes, I should say a rectangle divided in parts, right? So it's, and the parts we call 1Z, 2Z. Oh my Lord. So playing games, playing moral, going to school. I loved going to school. Eastern Girls Government School is my primary school or elementary school, and I went to Bishop Anstey High. That was great. I remember a prank that I pulled.
Oh yeah?
You want to hear that?
Yes! Tell us!
Oh Lord, okay. So I was in upper 3B, right? That was the first year. And the teacher was absent. Okay, so we had a sub, and the sub was a teacher named Miss Anatol, and I pretended I was asleep because I didn't want to be in class. And when they tried to wake me up, I acted as though I was hallucinating. What? And they had to send me out. That was terrible. But
you got away with that?
yes, I did.
Oh gosh.
I remember naughty, and I was a naughty girl because I reasoned that as long as I can deal with the punishment, then I'll go ahead and try out whatever, because I was curious.
Okay.
And if I ask a question and you don't give me an answer, and it's something I want to find out, and you won't give me an answer, then I will go and find out.
Are you still very curious?
Yes. But now I have wisdom to add.
Does wisdom enhance the curiosity, and encourages it or tempers it?
Well, wisdom directs how I find out whatever it is I need to find out.
I see.
Yeah.
So obedience does play an important part there again.
Obedience is extremely important.
I was going to ask you what is one thing you enjoyed doing in Trinidad while you were growing up, and I don't know if this thing you mentioned, what it is called, with the boxes.
Plain moral.
Morals. Is that the favorite thing?
Well, it was
Or
one of them.
one of them.
And dancing.
And dancing?
Of course, I love to party.
Really?
Are you kidding?
Huh.
Nobody can dance more like me.
Really?
More than me. No. Doesn't look like it.
Wow. No, not a.
Listen. I remember when I was about 7 years old. My grandfather and I were walking up the street on Prince Street, and there was this record shop called Reiner's Record, and there was a song that was playing that I loved. And Pa, I want to dance. And Pa let me go. He let go my hand, and the music was playing, and I stood there and I danced with my full, and when it was done, we went up the street. And the people were watching, but I didn't care. I wanted to dance. So yes, I'm
What
still like
What does dancing do for you?
Oh my God, I love dancing. It's freedom. It's dancing could be so ecstatic. I love to dance. I love to dance. Okay, I have great respect for musicians. I have great respect for people who do things with their hands. Anyway, to be able to create such beauty, because I'm not a hands person. My thing is up here, right? And I visualize it and I can implement it. But people who can make things with their hands,
Like our friend Donna.
like Donna Dove,
Donna
who
Dove,
introduced
yes,
us,
yes.
right? Amazing, and instruments. And music came from God anyway.
I agree.
Right? So for people to be able to make sounds that would evoke the kinds of feelings and movements out of your body is like, oh my God, I love to dance.
You know what I like
What?
about listening to you is the many different places your expressions and your the conversation takes me, and tonight, I mean, I always obey the flow, but tonight especially I am going to do that. And I'm going to just follow wherever this conversation takes, because you're fascinating.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
And I spoke about Trinidad, and I have this question. I was going through your bio, and I saw in 1994 you returned there, and where you championed the development of a Caribbean fashion industry.
Right.
I found that amazing. And there you developed this style page for the Trinidad Guardian,
Yes.
revolutionizing the way fashion events were covered in the print media.
Yes.
Why was that important to you?
Because I am interested in seeing Caribbean culture reach the world. We want everybody to know this is what we can do, but at the same time we have to know what the world standards are, right? Because those are the standards that we're competing on, right? So when I went home and started writing for the Trinidad Guardian, the way they talked about fashion was akin to, oh, there is Colin in a blue shirt with stripes, pink and white stripes. It's a tattersall. The collar is lined, the cuff with dots. Say something that would educate people and inform people, not just the obvious. Isn't she lovely? Doesn't he look lovely?
Yeah. Yes.
So
It's boring.
I'm making faces on the camera.
That is fine. That is fine. Be yourself. That's what we're here for, to encourage that.
But yes, it's like getting our people to understand what the world is looking for, so that you can compete, because you can't play the game if you don't know what the rules are. Once you know what the rules are, then you can take them and apply them, and take your product and make whatever is necessary so that it can fit or stand out. But still, you have to do it within the rules, because they are already there.
And how was that experience?
Oh, I love writing.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. It's once I start, it's hard to stop. So it's the start.
Isn't that the thing?
It's
The start, right?
Just the start. But yeah, I enjoyed writing for the Guardian, and of course getting around to all the different places. And I got into social reporting as well. For a newspaper called The Independent. And the column was I Was There. So I was there, I was everywhere. I was all over the place. Janice Lawrence-Clarke, here, there.
How long you did that for?
From about 94 to maybe 5 years.
5 years?
Because then I left and came back to the US to go to school.
Okay.
I Peter Principled out in Trinidad and Tobago, because I had reached as far as I could go. And I was beginning to get frustrated because I was putting out and not being fed. Right? So it's got to go both ways.
You know, that's a nice place to take a break.
We're breaking.
So let's do that. We are back with the lovely Janice Lawrence-Clarke. Janice,
Yes, I will.
how are you holding up?
I'm holding up well.
I'm really enjoying this tonight, and so I want to go into JLC, JLC Productions.
Okay.
Tell us about that. What is it about?
Well, JLC Productions is my production company. Events, project management, fashion and cultural event production, special events, that kind of thing. I'm also a fashion consultant by trade. You know, so as a fashion consultant, I can work with designers. I have worked with designers in the past, helping them put their collections together. Excuse me. Shopping, trade shows for fabric, giving them advice on different trade shows that they should participate in or not. And I especially would love to work with designers from the Caribbean. I know, they keep telling me to leave those people alone. I don't know. They leave a string buried on there.
Oh gosh.
Because, you know, they're there and some of them really want to get out. But you're in the Caribbean, you hear all these things. You don't know what's really going on over here.
All right.
You don't know what show is the best show for you. You know, you haven't walked it. You don't make a connection with anyone that can do this for you, so that you don't have to spend the money to do it. You know, or to spend the money unwisely, so that you make wise decisions when planning your events and your shows and the trade shows that you participate in. Because I hear these designers coming and doing shows, and then, okay, so what happened? What paper did you write? Did you sell anything? How much did you sell? I don't even think the government knows how much money they make. So how can you have an industry and not know what the GDP is, what it contributes to the GDP? So I like to affect that, and that's part of, you know, some of the services that I offer through JLC Productions.
And what attracted you to event planning?
Wow, you call it event planning?
Well,
I know. That's the latest stuff.
that's the latest thing. Well, I tell you what. Correct me, and you know, so that the audience learns the same time I'm learning.
Okay. When I was at FIT, I wanted to do fashion show production, but I didn't know what it was called. Okay. My mentor was Marty Bronson, who's he was the director of the galleries at FIT, and he conducted the shows and all of that. And while I was at FIT, I kept telling everyone, I want to do the shows, and they kept saying, oh, you want to be a fashion coordinator. So I was introduced to people that were fashion coordinators. I spoke to so many people, but a fashion coordinator really belongs in a retail establishment, right? And even though they kept telling me that, I realized, no, that's not what it's called. Until I sat and I spoke to Marty, and I said, Marty, I want to do what you do. He's a fashion show producer. That's what I love. I studied lighting. Oh yeah, at Parsons. I've studied staging, how to put a runway together, the flats. I know how to produce a show from front and back. So having been on the front as a model, and having the background, the fashion background, in understanding what the purpose of a fashion show is. The purpose of a fashion show is to sell clothes.
Please repeat that.
The purpose of a fashion show is to sell clothes.
Thank you.
Okay? Not just to have, oh, here's a pretty model running up and down so that some promoter can make money and the designer, nobody knows who the designer is. How do we find the clothes after the show is over? So you would find that anytime I do an event, there's always a piece that would allow the guest to leave with something in their hand so that they can look when they sit down in their comfort and say, oh yes, I remember that, so this is where to find this. When I do events, it's about educating while entertaining.
Educating while entertaining. I love that. You.
Very important.
Entertaining while educating. EWE. I like that. Who are the most important stakeholders when running a fashion show?
The most important stakeholders, well, of course, I would say the designer.
The designer,
right? And then you have to know what market you're presenting to. The purpose of the show. Now, it is possible to, combine entertainment with fashion. Of course, people do it all the time. But you still have to know who your market is, right? So I would say the designer and the market, and then all the other pieces come together. You gotta have money, right? But yeah, those to me would be the most important.
I want to ask you what it means to be a businesswoman, but I want to get by that and ask you what it means to be a black businesswoman.
To be a black businesswoman. Well, of course, there are many resources available for women,
right?
For minorities. And being a black woman, I'm a double minority.
Yes.
And therefore, if we just tap into those resources, this is just my opinion.
Yes.
If you tap into those resources, you can actually make things work. One of the things that I found that is disturbing to me is in dealing with mostly men that tell me I'm hard because I'm organized. I kind of like to be on time. So for example, if anybody's coming to my show,
yes,
the doors open at 5.
Right.
Showtime is at 6. If there is one person sitting in that audience,
it starts.
It starts.
I like that.
Okay.
There's something very powerful about punctuality.
Yes. I learned that from a guy that I was dating many years ago, who said to me, Janice, you have to realize that when you're late, it means you're not appreciating the other person's time.
Yes. Very true.
right?
Yes.
So so whenever I find that I'm running late, I have to call and let people know what's going on because it upsets me
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like to be late, So what I found as a black businesswoman is that in dealing with some men, especially
Right.
some men,
Mm-hmm.
that they find it difficult to deal with me. And instead of staying focused on business, want to take the conversation in other directions. And that is just so not cool, But other than that, there are resources available that once we make use of them and we have to know our craft.
Mm-hmm.
It helps. That way we can stay about the business and not about anything else.
And what was is one of the most memorable locations you've held an event or hosted an
Oh,
event?
wow. I can tell you one here and I can tell you one in Trinidad.
Go for it.
Okay, the one here is the Brooklyn Museum,
Mm.
right? And there I got to do everything just the way I wanted to, right? That was great. That was Teleparel 93. That was the last show that I did in the States,
Uh-huh.
right? It was done with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and it included NGOs and, lots of like major corporations. It was done for a program that they had called Brooklyn Goes Global, where it was showing off to the world Brooklyn's design and manufacturing capabilities,
Mhm.
right? So I was the fashion coordinator and producer for that show, major. Then in Trinidad, Queen's Hall. I've always wanted to do a show in Queen's Hall, and I did a show for Clico in Queen's Hall. It was a celebration of their 60th anniversary, and I based it on a book that was written by Lawrence Dupre.
Uh-huh.
It was written about Lawrence Dupre by his son, and it talked about the history of Clico, and I told that story in fashion, right? Oh yeah. When I think of those shows, those are like wonderful shows.
You spoke about the having the autonomy at the Brooklyn Museum. How important it is in your line of work to have carte blanche to do whatever you want?
Well, I mean, with carte blanche and the money behind it, I keep stressing that. I can want however much I want if I have the money to
The budget,
do it.
right?
The budget isn't there. Hello. But I've been known to make bricks without straw, so
Really?
hello. You have to be able to still present your art with whatever you're presented, with whatever you're working with. You make the best. I believe in making the best with whatever it is I'm given.
Have you ever been in a situation you started, you have this vision, you know your budget, but coming down to the wire you realize this isn't going to work?
Oh God.
You've had those?
Yes.
How do you manage that?
And when I should say stop and not do it,
Right.
I still forge ahead and still do it.
Really?
Yes.
How was that?
Well, I'm trying to learn to just stop.
Are you an avalanche?
What do you mean?
Mean that when you get started you cannot stop?
When I start, it's difficult to stop because it's like, you've put so much into it. You've got everybody involved in
Yeah.
in anticipation. How do you just stop, not do it? So I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Is it I am surmising that you've become adept at creating lemonades out of lemons?
Yeah,
Okay.
and sweetening it too.
And sweetening it. like the incident or the experience on the stage when you were hooked.
Yes, when I was caught on the stage. Because, like I said, you have these things happen.
Uh-huh.
What are you going to do? How could so many people are depending on you, looking forward to this thing. You just scale it back and you give them, instead of the grand cake, you
Yes.
just give them a cupcake.
In the chat room, Tessa asked, what do you like about fashion? And there's another question by Tessa. Do you still write?
Hi, Tessa. Thank you for your questions. What do I like about fashion? Fashion for me is exciting. I love clothes. I'm a clothes horse. I love to dress, right? So, and it's constantly changing. So those are the things that I love about fashion. Yes, I write, but I write for my own proposals. I haven't written anything public lately.
Oh, okay. And are you doing your dream job?
Yeah. But I'm not getting my dream pay yet.
Have Have you ever thought of doing something else?
I've tried. Okay. Things that I've tried.
Yes.
Okay. The first time I tried to get out of fashion, I went to work for Pan Am. Pan Am was one of the most recognized logos in the world, Pan American World Airways. And I went to work with Pan Am. It was great. Pan Am closed. Where did I go? Back to fashion. All right. So, okay. So I have my child. I become a mom. We moved to Trinidad. What did I do there? What do I know best? Fashion. So I come back to America. I go to NYU. I said, okay, let me get something mindless because I'm in school, right? So with fashion, I live it, I eat it, I breathe it. It goes home. It's home with me. So let's get a regular job, a regular day job. So I'm doing that. And I'm going to school. It's over. I decide to move to Atlanta because I love New York. I don't think New York is the best place. At least it wasn't the best place for me to raise a family. Right. Which is why my husband and I went back to Trinidad and Tobago, which is why I moved to Georgia after I graduated. Okay, got my daughter and moved to Georgia. Moved down to Georgia with the intentions of teaching. Okay. And I didn't have a master's at the time. I just had a bachelor's. Well, why don't we know that the summer I get there and this job that I left to go and do, the Accreditation Bureau for the Southern Schools determined that you had to have a master's to teach at the tertiary level. So there goes my job. What do I do now? And I mean, from there, I sold cars. That was one of the best things that I've ever
selling
done.
cars.
You talked earlier about confidence.
Yes.
Selling cars for me was something that opened up my confidence, that gave me confidence, that allowed me to build and realize my strength. Because I used to sell Infinity. The Infinity, beautiful car. $30,000, $40,000, $60,000, $70,000, $90,000 cars, right? Somebody a total stranger walks on the lot. You have to talk a total stranger into spending that amount of money. You have got to be comfortable to walk up to a total stranger and introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Jan Clark. What can I show you today? Come with me. And you know how I got to perfect the art of selling the car? I treated it like a fashion show because it was all the same. Here we have the G35. Note the interior. Well, whether it was vanilla, I mean, I'm going back a few years, but note the color of the interior. And we have, you know, what the dashboard looks like and the ebony grain, and whether it's manual or automatic shift. And then, of course, it's a G6 engine. And, you know, note the color. This color is Caribbean blue. We also have sand, you know. Yes, the grill and the lights. And it was commentating a fashion show. That's how I learned to sell cars. before then, cars pretty much looked the same to me. I didn't realize that they were really different. Not really. I mean, we knew specific shapes.
Right.
But, I remember walking with the salesman, the first salesman that I trained with. His name was Barrington, a guy from Jamaica, and he showed me the Q45 and the G35, and he said, "So what do you see?" I said, "Well, they're the same." He said, "No, they're not." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, look at them good." And then when I looked, I realized that the lamps, the headlights were different. And for me, it was like, oh my God, the eyes are different.
The eyes.
Yes. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but vehicles have faces.
Yes, I do.
Right?
Yes.
So I said, oh my God, the eyes are different. Because the G was shaped like vertically, a vertical sort of almond shape, while the Q was on the horizontal. And it was then that I actually start looking and seeing. And then, of course, cars have different feels, because once you get into G35, I'm saying, I should talk to Infinity about sponsoring.
Yeah. I think you should. I gave you an opportunity to plug them, and you plugged them good.
Oh my God!
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
The cars are different, and selling cars really helped me develop my confidence. I sold cars. I've sold insurance. That was another thing, and each time things would happen that would make it stop and bring me right back to fashion. So here I am.
Fashion. And what are some of the challenges you face as a fashion coordinator or consultant that you wish someone had told you earlier in your career?
Well, as a consultant, I think people tend to underestimate your value. Because when you're passionate about a thing, you tend to talk about it freely. And as a consultant, you have to know how to hold back and not give the meat of the thing that it has to be paid for.
Oh,
otherwise, how are you going to make a living?
That's interesting. How you manage that?
That is tricky because, and with more dealing with more people and doing it more often, you get a hang of it. But it's very easy to be talking and just start giving advice because you know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I wish somebody had told me before, instead of me having to find out on my own, that Janice, you don't have to give everything. You have to give a little bit, and
yes.
But they have to pay for your experience, for your education, for your contacts. I have contacts that I can't even use. I haven't even used.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, because you go out. I was talking to a phone company today. Right?
You almost plugged them, right?
Right? And that's another thing that my friend was telling me. She's a great publicist, because she gives names, And I was saying to him that my contacts, some of them have been wiped off of my phone. So he went on to the backup and he says, well, I can tell you here you have 4,600. You must be a very popular person.
4,600 contacts?
Names, yes. And I've lost some that have that I've recently added. I've lost from my phone and I'm trying to call people to let them know what's going on and I can't find
are you going to start backing up now?
Well, yeah.
I've been there.
Not a nice place to be.
So how is your business evolving with the use of social media?
Oh gosh, social media. I would love it if I can actually let somebody else handle that part of it because it really does take up a lot of time. You know. But I find social media to be necessary. I like it. You know, there are people who talk about, oh my God, you're on Facebook, but it's what you use it for. You know, they say, oh, this one was telling that one off on Facebook. Who's putting the information? If you put that information there, then what do you expect?
Yes.
You know, but I think it has its value,
Okay.
and I utilize all of them.
Do you travel a lot?
You know, in this past 6 months, I
Right.
have traveled more than I have in this past 6 months than I have in 10 years.
What?
And now that I've moved back from Atlanta, I am one of the organizers of the Atlanta Fashion Industry Meetup Group. So, 3 times a year, I know I have to be in Atlanta to produce an event.
So, what are some of the favorite things to do or you do in Atlanta, or Hotlanta as they call it?
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta is beautiful. Beautiful homes, beautiful topography,
Yes.
spacious, green. And it's just nice to be there because you feel closer to nature. You don't have to put shoes on to go outside. That's
Yes.
one of the things I love.
Yes.
But then Atlanta has a very active social calendar, gallery, and I'm involved in that. And because I belong to like different communities, it's always active.
It
So
brings me to one of your quotes. Are you ready to start the show?
are you ready to start? the
There's a
show?
story surrounding that.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Okay, so I was involved as a consultant to Sheree and the Real Housewives of Atlanta for the She by Sheree fashion show. And, you know, on the day of the show, everybody's running around, and I went over to Dwight Eubanks, and, you know, I'm not paying attention to the cameras. So it was time to start the show already, you know. I mean, okay, the hype, she's here. Are you ready to start the show? And he looks at his watch. And that's what came up on TV. So I also substitute teach at a couple of high schools in Georgia, in Marietta. And the kids was like, oh, Miss Clarke, you're a celebrity. What are you talking about? We saw you on TV. You know? Yeah, so that's where that came from. Are you ready to start the show?
You travel. I mean, how do you de-stress? What do you do? If there is stress.
Stress?
If there is any. None.
Do I look like I'm stressed?
No, you don't. You don't.
I'm
But
too blessed to be stressed.
I like that.
You know.
How do you tone down? I'm like you. I don't give in easily. How do you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hard.
It's
like
hard?
going in my bed and lying down.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah.
No, simplicity always wins, right?
Right. I have TV shows that I love to look at, you know. But yeah, just stop when I'm tired. I
Stop.
just stop.
So what do you do for play?
For play, I like to go out and dance.
Dance again.
I love the movies.
Oh.
I
It's
love
not my
going to the movies.
favorites.
I would spend a day at the movies. And
that
what I
so?
found is that for me, movies are like, if I've had a particularly, okay, like when my daughter left to go home, or, you know, to break up, whatever, I spend the day at the movies.
Really?
Going from movie, I have a smorgasbord of movies.
Can you pronounce that? Say that word again.
A smorgasbord. A smorgasbord.
I have a story with that, but this is not my show. I mean, I'm not the guest here tonight. In the chat room, G asks, is there anything you don't like about producing?
About producing, I would have to say no. But about event management, one of the things that I've learned are the things that I like to do, the things that I don't like to do, and the things that should be delegated. I learned a long time ago that I'm able to do every part of an event, and I can do every part well, but I cannot do every part well at the same time. So therefore I learned what I would rather delegate, like promotion. I'm not a promoter. You know, yes, I can go out, talk to people, hand out a card, but there are people who that's their thing. I like people to do the thing that they do. PR, yes, I can write press releases, I can follow up with the press and do that, but let somebody else do that, because I like doing the nitty-gritty. I like casting, lining up the garments, telling the story of the show, putting the music to the show, letting people see when they come to a show, this is the story. That's the part that I love. So to answer your question, there isn't really anything that I do not like about producing, but within an event, there are things that I'd rather delegate because other people do them better than I do.
And DSACB said, powerful. Punctuality is critical. And we know how our people sadly often fail in that regard.
Yeah.
And so I ask you, do you collect art?
Do I collect art?
Yes.
Some, but not enough.
What kind of art inspires you?
Do you know Leroy Clarke?
No.
Leroy Clarke is a master artist, no relations, but he is from Trinidad and Tobago. Beautiful work.
Really?
Beautiful work.
You know him well? Maybe we should have him on sometime.
It would be fabulous. We need to do a tour of his work.
Okay.
His work is phenomenal.
Wow.
Right? So I have his books. Sadly, I can't afford a painting as yet. Not yet. I'm working on it. Right? But I collect just postcards, magazines, you know, and just odd things, bottles, rocks. Yeah.
You like collecting?
Because I see beauty in everything.
Yes. Yes. No.
Right? I rather see the beauty than the other side, because I believe there's beauty in everything.
I agree.
And in everyone.
You have a background in journalism. Can you elaborate on how journalistic experience influences your work?
In as much as when it comes to how to put together a press release that a reporter would pick up on, yes, from that perspective.
Okay.
Other than that, because interestingly, when I graduated from high school,
right,
the first school I went to was called Staten Island Community College, which I think they've changed the name now, College of Staten Island or something like that. And I actually went for journalism. But I had an instructor that wasn't the best, and he kind of turned me off from journalism. And in that interim was when I found fashion. So, I had the thought of journalism, ended up writing for the media, and, without even being trained for it. So
you're a mother of a young woman.
Yes.
How has being a mother shaped your work and business?
Oh, I love being a mom. I love being a mommy. My grandmother had wanted me to have a child so badly. Really? Because she felt that it would. She told me it would change you, and it really did. Yeah. But I remember when she told me that, I said, why should I want to change? I'll change when it's time. But having a daughter has changed me. I remember having like a self-righteous indignation when I was pregnant and on the train and seeing people throw paper on the floor, and it's like, oh my God, it's like, what are you doing? Because I'm thinking of this child that's coming into the world, and this is what you're doing. So It has changed me. I see motherhood as such a great responsibility. Because it wasn't until she was being born that I learned and understood the meaning of my flesh and blood. Because, this is another being. This is another being that is growing inside of your body. So at the same time, there was this show called Alien. I think it was like the Alien thing where the man, right?
Yes.
And all these things were like, oh my God, beginning to take on like a different kind of understanding for me, right? And when she was born, I remember looking and realizing this just came out of me, out of my flesh and blood. So there is a bond, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and you have a responsibility to teach this child and prepare this child for the world that this child is about to enter. And you are that child's last defense, first and last defense against the rest of the world. So you have to protect this child, nurture this child, train this child so that this child can survive in this world that he or she is being born into, right? So for me, I stepped back and I didn't understand it until a few years ago when I realized that I decreased so that she could increase. To have my daughter, I stepped out of industry. So instead of working full time, because I wanted to raise my child, I figured out how to work on a freelance. That's what caused me to go into business, because I had to figure out how to work freelance so that I can have my own time, so that I can take care and be with my baby when needed. Right? That is what caused me to go freelance in the first place.
It's a powerful story.
Okay? And I remember when I was 14, my younger brother, I used to have to take him to the babysitter. And when I took him to the babysitter, every time I left him, he would cry. He would cry his little heart out. And it would break my heart because I had to go to school. I would take him to the babysitter and then I was off to school. And I remember vowing I would never do that to my child. And speed up, 21 years later.
Okay.
I had my daughter. And of course I remembered that, and my husband and I discussed it. But prior to that, I'd been doing the freelance thing so that when the time came, it wouldn't freak me out. And that's why I did what I did. And I can honestly say, this is my beloved child in whom I'm well pleased. I am very pleased with her.
I like that. I like. And how has she influenced your creations? Your artistic creations. How?
Listen, not really.
Not really.
Okay? Because when she was a child, when she was a baby, I used to dress my little girl like a little girl with curls and bows and all of that. And braids and what have you.
She listening?
I hope so. Because as soon as she could comb her hair, I was banned.
Really?
Well, because she's a young girl. She has to know how to handle her own hair anyway. But then she wants to be a tomboy. I have all these really cool skirts for her. She wants to wear jeans. But now she's doing the heels again and the dresses, and she's found the makeup and all of that. But there was the period where she, had to do her rebellion thing, like, no, Mom, I'm not wearing that. And then she wouldn't walk straight. Here I am, I'm training models, okay? When she was a baby, she was there. I had her on stage. She did her first fashion show before she was 2 years old. She was in that show in the Brooklyn Museum.
Oh.
Right? And when I did shows in Trinidad, she would be there. I had her involved, right? And when I'm training the models, she'd be there saying, attitude, attitude. The girl grows up. Would she walk straight? No. She has a thing that she does where she folds, she's like this. And when I look at her and I say, condor, she straightens up. Because you're sitting with your shoulders folded in like a condor.
Right.
A kobo straight.
Oh, Mom. And you believe, and I quote, work was never more important than raising my child. How important was that philosophy to you?
Well, extremely. That's why I could say now I'm well pleased with her.
And would you encourage your daughters or other young women to adopt a similar attitude?
I think for the health of our nation and our people, they should. Somebody has to, because your child, you have that one time. You are the one that has to guide and prepare this person to be a good citizen and to be productive. And if you don't devote the time, how is that going to happen? If when you're walking with your child, you're on the cell phone instead of holding your child's hand, playing in the street, jumping with her. These are all the things I used to do with her. We'd be walking down the street. Oh, Mom, there are some squares. And she wants to jump from one color to the next. So yeah, I was jumping from one color to the next too. And have fun with your children. That's why they've been given to you. They're a responsibility.
One of the things I often marvel at is how fast this show seems to move. And time is creeping up on us. But I have some questions I would really love you to answer. Okay. So we're going to do some rapid question and answer.
Okay.
But before I do that, I want to address the chat room. It's important. Mike asked, do you have any upcoming events and what's the idea behind them? And DSACB said, beautiful to hear you speak about your joy of motherhood. So let's go back to Mike's question.
Okay, so thanks, Mike. We do have a show coming up. The date is August 18th. It's called JATT 50 Plus, The Next Golden Years. It celebrates the heritage and independence of Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago while benefiting Wings of Love International. They are advocates against domestic violence. The event will be held at the Broad Street Ballroom in downtown Manhattan in the financial district. Doors open at 5, showtime 6 p.m., and then there's an after party. So the show should run for about 6 till 7:30, and then after party until 11. And it's an all-inclusive, so there'll be hors d'oeuvres and beverages and, a lovely time, fashion and culture. So you can call, there's a number on the card that I gave you.
The number is 678-744-3122. Or you can visit the website, www.jlcpr.net. That is www.jlcpr.net. And the number again, 678-744-3122.
Right.
So let's go back to these questions, which I will, okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Tell us about CAFE, the Caribbean American Fashion Exchange.
That's a marketing program designed to bring Caribbean and Caribbean American designers into the U.S. fashion market. So it's an economic development program, right? Another one of the JLC production events. So we're working on CAFE maybe 2014 right now, so people would hear more about it.
And is there any information on CAFE at the website?
Probably just as far as the basics.
The basics, okay.
Yes.
All right.
But the cafe has, for more information on cafe, people can just email cafe@jlcpr.net.
Can you tell us about how spirituality has influenced your work?
Okay. Well, because I do serve one God, yeah, and I do believe in Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. I believe in the Word, in the Bible, and it does give us guidelines. And because now I know what those guidelines are, and I really try my best to follow them, which is, a lot of people don't understand, especially men, but I really do strive to do that. And so because of that, it dictates or tells me how to be.
Okay.
So that I am not being offensive, so that I could stay being obedient. And people say to me that, the Bible was from a long time and times have changed. Times may have changed, but people haven't.
Like that.
Times may have changed,
I agree.
but people have not. People are doing the same things today that they were doing back then.
Do you have a mentor?
I have several mentors.
Several mentors. How important is mentorship?
Extremely, because it's good to have somebody else that you can go and talk to and bounce things off, especially because I mentor people as well. And sometimes people don't realize that even you, the mentor, needs to have some place and someone that they can go and talk to and get some spiritual food back from them.
I see that as, I call that balance. I remember a very old, much older woman that said to me years ago, I value her wisdom a lot, and she said, everyone must have someone that they look up to, someone who, if they are about to do something wrong, something bad, and they say stop, they will stop. And they must also have someone who looks up to them. So you have that balance.
Right.
And so, yes, I like that. What is the one fashion tip you will give for all the fashionistas out there? One fashion tip.
One fashion tip: dress to suit your body type, but have fun being dressed. Just have fun with yourself.
Okay. What is the most meaningful thing in your closet and why?
Oh my God, the most meaningful thing in my closet?
Yes, you said your clothes are black.
Yes.
Okay.
I have more black pants and more black skirts and black tops black. Because you can dress it up, you can dress it down. It always works.
Black.
Just add a different accessory and you're gone.
It's a nice tip.
Yes, black always works.
and I'm going to go out on a limb here, but one word to describe you.
Dependable.
Would you like to hear mine?
Yes.
Phenomenal.
Amen. Oh, for me?
Yes.
You call me a phenomenal woman?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How does a JLC event stand out from other similar types of events?
Okay. People are guaranteed to learn to come away with more than they expect. They're guaranteed to come away. Guaranteed to come away with more than they expect.
I like that.
And they would have a fabulous time.
Confidence again.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about the Caribbean fashion community?
Good question. A sense of style, a sense of color combinations, a sense of how we put things together without fear of what the European market is doing or what the American market is doing. We do have our own panache. And I just wish more people could know about it.
You know what is interesting about that, and I don't want to get too much into this because of the time, is that there's this side where there's one side where people accuse us of, we were former colonies, all of us, of being influenced a lot in the way we conduct ourselves, our attitude, our very ethos, on by our colonial masters. Yet, based on what you were saying, here lies the contradiction, in that when it comes to fashion, we do our thing.
We most certainly do. And I mean, that's where Carnival came from too, right? Because Carnival was taking what Massa was doing and fixing it up in our way.
We do it our way.
Exactly.
I like that. What's next for you?
After this upcoming show?
Yes.
I would love to get married.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Why didn't you say this earlier? With all these men looking at this show. Say it again.
I would love to be married. I have so much that I want to give a man, and I have to just be calm until he finds me.
You have so much to give a man.
Oh yeah. Yes, I mean, look, I'm still vibrant, I ain't dead.
I hope Donna is watching this show. I really hope Donna, lovely lady, Donna Dove.
I love Donna.
Shout out to you, Donna.
Yeah.
And I want to go through this fast because I want to ask this. 2011, you launched the Fashiculture Network, FCN.
Right.
What was that about?
Fashiculture, fashion and culture, the study of fashion, the study of fashion in culture, and the culture in fashion.
I like that.
So everything that you see on stage, when I put, like, for example, the show that's coming up in August, that's fashiculture, because it is going to be a combination of culture and fashion, told in that way.
Why did you think it was necessary at that time?
Because it's life, and once people start understanding and appreciating each other for who they are, they get to appreciate themselves for who they are, and we could just move on and just let's live. I come from a country where on one block you can have a mosque and a church.
Same here, yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I mean, there wasn't a big deal. The temple was down there. When there were Hindu holidays, the entire country celebrated the Hindu holidays. The entire country celebrated the Muslim holidays, the Shouter Baptist holidays, etc. So, I mean, we are all human beings.
Yes, I agree. Having grown in knowledge and experience and wisdom, what would you do differently with FCN, in creating FCN, if anything at all?
FCN still needs to be explored further. I'm not done with FCN.
Still in its embryonic stage. Okay. And who are other fashion specialists you admire?
When you say fashion specialists,
well,
okay. All right. There was a man named Dwight Bird.
Dwight Bird?
And it was because of Dwight that I actually learned how to be a stylist.
Really?
Right? I remember people who have helped shape me. Right? As far when you say fashion specialists, I'm thinking maybe you're thinking of designers. I can tell you some designers that I love and admire their clothes. I like to wear Courtney Washington. He's from Jamaica.
Jamaican brother.
I love Greta Wallace, Simply Greta. I'm wearing hers. Donna Dove.
Donna Dove.
She's very unusual.
I have a shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think when she was here, she was wearing her shirt that design has got to be spirit given. And I don't know why she didn't say the name of the shirt, but it's called the tail of the shirt.
The tail of the shirt.
The tail, the T-A-L-E of the shirt.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
so whenever I have a white piece, that's the top is the 2 shirts, the skirt is 6 shirts. And whenever I wear it, of course, I have to answer the questions, you know, because they do come. Because it's a fascinating piece of work, you know. So I love Donna. Heather Jones in Trinidad and Tobago. She has a look that you can definitely identify, right? Claudia Pigas, also from TNT, right? And you would hear me, I gravitate to Caribbean designers. I wear their clothes, right? I wear their clothes. Not saying that I wouldn't want to wear Terry Mugler
Right.
or Ralph Lauren, which I have, but I like mine,
You like, yes.
you know, so I want to promote mine too.
I like that.
Yeah, so
I like that. I mean, we try to promote ours as much as possible.
everybody else does.
Yes, everybody else does.
Exactly.
You know some of these designers you wear. Okay, wonderful. And last but not least,
And Mel Simon.
Mel
I
Simon.
don't know if you know Mel Simon.
Where is he from?
He is from TNT.
Mhm.
He has a company called Brooklyn Clothing Lab. Right.
Really?
And he's brilliant. People don't even know. But he was once, he's a great pattern maker. And he was the pattern maker for Common Mark Valvo. And the Wall Street Journal had done a piece on him. And then that was the piece that I found that got me reconnected with him. But
He's here?
He's here. He's going to be in my show.
Really?
Yes.
Mel Simon.
Yes,
Okay.
Mel Simon. And, you know, he also comes from back in the day when we were here running Brooklyn. All your young people that feel you're now running things. It had a bunch of us out there before, yeah? I just want to you to know. Oh, yes, and I could go into lingo when I'm ready. All right. As you were saying here.
Patrick laughed out loud, and Patrick said, "Your guest is crazy funny." Yes, Patrick, she is indeed. And you know, this is a question I ask all my guests: what makes you laugh out loud?
Oh, anything. I'm laughing out loud now. I love to laugh.
Yeah.
I love life.
Ah,
And, you know, you could see some funny things, you know. They're enough to make you cry,
Yes.
but, you know, there's
You know,
always something funny.
you know, one of the things, and it's not a regret. It gives me pause. We had a conversation the other day, and you mentioned something about womanhood. I forget what it what you know all the details, but the gist of it is about respecting yourself as a woman or something like that. You have a minute or two. You want to mention that?
Well, let me take it from here. And my spirituality, my spiritual rebirth has a lot to do with it too, with the way I now understand my position as a woman. And I call myself a Titus 2 woman.
Titus 2.
Titus 2.
What does that mean?
Titus 2, I think it's like from verses 3 to 5.
Oh,
or
Titus.
something.
Okay, gosh,
Where-
Mom, I hope you're not watching this show.
We will let that one slide.
Yes.
Where the older women are
Uh-huh.
called to teach the younger women, and by carrying themselves, you know, not getting drunk, not being drunk on wine, you know, too much wine and stuff like that, but to help teach the young women how to be which is why I tell you, I have so much that I want to offer a man. I train young women with my models club, and I have to abstain because the word says, how to be. That's why I was saying that many men don't necessarily like that, because
The abstinence.
Exactly. And once you realize it, as a woman, you're receiving, as a woman, when you and a man come together, he gives, you receive. You're receptacle because you're built to grow things. So you are ground that seed is being put into. So you have to keep your ground fertile, but you also have to be mindful that you allow the right seed into your ground. Right? Women and men are so different because men are visual creatures. Men can see something and like it, and because he likes it, his physical nature wants to act on it. And that's okay. He can still have the one that he loves and admires and respects and would have as his wife there on the side. But if you dangle the little thing in front of him, he'll follow that too and still go back to where he wants to be. It's no big deal, right? But a woman, because of the way we are, what we have is so precious that when we give it, we feel we are actually giving you the best thing that we have. Wars have been fought over this thing, and we have to realize how valuable it is so that we're not just giving it away for nothing, unnecessarily. Allowing, guys to just take advantage of us and, utilize the honeypot, without putting the proper value and cherishing it and treating you the way that you should be treated, like a queen, like something that's precious. Because when a man and a woman find each other and find the right, that they are actually right for each other, to me, it's a wonderful thing. And to do that, you have to not let sex be in the way, because sex clouds your judgment, right? Because it feels good, you might think it's love, and it's not really love. You're just in lust. And then it's time for you all to part your way. You're in pain, because the woman may have been feeling deeper than the man who's just, having a good time. And, it
gets complicated.
Exactly. So for me, my thing is arrest my mind. I know that all my parts work. I know that all my parts will always work.
Synchronicity.
Okay. So therefore, let us realize whether we like each other, so that, God forbid, should his part not work,
Right.
we would still enjoy each other's company and still want to be with each other because we're friends. We love each other, for better or for worse.
Very eloquent.
Okay.
Very, very eloquent. I mean, we couldn't have ended the show on a much more, wonderful note. And so I ask you to take us out with something inspirational.
Wow, something inspirational.
Yes. Words of advice, something.
Let your steps be ordered by the Lord.
let your steps be ordered by the Lord. I like that. I like that. Let your steps be ordered.
You never go wrong.
And Janice,
Yes.
I want to take this opportunity to say to you, thank you. It was indeed a pleasure. It was informative. It was enlightening. It was humorous, exciting. I learned a lot. I enjoyed having you. I think time is time. I'm not complaining, but having a conversation with you somehow in the beginning, hour and a half, but not any one of my guests seemed like a long time. But as we spoke, you're realizing that an hour and a half is not enough. You're too multifaceted a woman. The word I use to describe you, phenomenal, a woman, for us to condense all of you, so much of you, in 1.5 hours. So thanks again for lending your time and your magnificence to this show. I hope, and I'm putting it out there, that this event that is coming up on August 18th, it is,
Yes.
at 5 o'clock, goes well. I anticipate it will. Listening to you, you obviously know what you're talking about, and a special shout out to my dear friend Donna Dove, who brought us together. All right, I think she has done a service to our community by suggesting that we have you on the show.
And I thank her for that too. She's in the show as well with her band, Pagua.
She's in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
There's
Donna.
some culture. We want to sell out the show.
Trinidad in the house.
Okay, and Jamaica.
And
Africa and America.
Ah.
We have African designers, American designers, Jamaican, Trinbagonian. But Colin, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
having me.
You're welcome. Really.
I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Selwyn. I did.
Thank you. And guys, Janice would like to get married. Please understand. But make sure before you approach her, you are in full alignment. What is it you said? What is the words of words of wisdom you used just now?
What, that your path, your steps are ordered by the Lord.
Yes, let your steps be ordered, right?
Yes.
Before you order anything.
Yes.
Right? So that it is said, so it is said, so let it be written, so let it be done.
Amen.
Right? And I close the show by saying thanks to all of you for joining us again. And with this word, confidence. When you see it in others, encourage it, embrace it, and confidence will repay you by lending itself to you and encouraging you to do positive things and things beyond your limitations. This is Selwyn Collins saying good night and God bless. Tomorrow night, my guest is Rosemary Morelli, and I'm anticipating another interesting, informative, and wonderful conversation. Please tune in, 8:30 on the dot. Sometimes 8:30 on the dot. Good night.
Who stands up for the children? Who gives the children that joy?